He's back.
He's back?
He's back.
He's back.
Who's back?
Who's back?
The Pink Panther, the world's largest diamond, has been stolen again. And there's only one man who can get it back.
I am calling in outside help. The famous French detective who recovered the Pink Panther the last time it was stolen. What was his name?
Clouseau.
Peter Sellers as Inspector Jacques Clouseau in The Return of the Pink Panther.
How can an idiot be a policeman? Answer me that.
It's very simple. All he has to do is listen.
He has lightning-fast reflexes and a keen eye for detail.
How do you know so much about city ordinances? What sort of stupid question is that? Are you blind? Yes.
He's a master of disguise
Monsieur Guy Gadebois, at your service.
and an expert in the art of self-defense. Women adore him. Men respect him.
Idiot. Do I detect something in your voice that says I am in disfavor with you?
I wish you were dead.
He's feared by his enemies and his friends.
Gesundheit.
There's no spot too tight. No problem too sticky. No situation too dangerous. For Peter Sellers as Inspector Clouseau in The Return of the Pink Panther.
Until we meet again and the case is solved.
Hey there, welcome back to Dave's Movie Diary. That sax, it takes me straight back to Pink Panther and just being young and enjoying Peter Sellers' performance. Yes, Return of the Pink Panther from 1975. Like I said, I've got long memories of this film. It always seemed to be on back in the day, in the late 70s, early 80s. Saw bits and pieces growing up before eventually sitting down and watching it properly. Probably, I think it was in the early or mid 90s. For some reason, I realized that I hadn't actually watched the whole thing, and it always gets good reviews on in any of the guides that I used to consult all the time. So I thought it was a good time now to rewatch it again. Haven't seen it. I think I might have seen it once with my kids, probably in the early 2010s, possibly, along with the remakes, of course. So yeah, thought it was a good time to watch it. I saw Doctor Strangelove not that long ago, last year sometime actually, and that reminded me how great Peter Sellers was playing multiple parts. So yeah, it was definitely time. This one it's a fairly straightforward plot. I mean, it does get a little bit convoluted, but in essence, the Pink Panther diamond, that's where the name Pink Panther comes from, is stolen once again from a little country that seemed to be a fictional country, but seemed to be based on maybe Morocco, somewhere like that. The international jewel thief, Sir Charles Lytton, played by Christopher Plummer, becomes the prime suspect. And of course, who would you call in to solve a mystery like this? Inspector Clouseau. Of course, the Peter Sellers' famous character. He's assigned to investigate against the wishes of his inspector, Inspector Dreyfus, who really hates his guts, is fed up to the back teeth with this loser, this lunatic, the bane of his existence. And he is dumbfounded when the call comes in to assign Clouseau to the case after he has just been fired by Inspector Dreyfus. So that's hugely embarrassing. The rest of it just plays out. Chaos follows Clouseau wherever he goes, as always. Expect the unexpected, but just expect bumbling around and lots of comedic moments. Whatever mystery there is, ultimately, ultimately just becomes secondary to the comedy that is flowing out of Peter Sellers' body. That just overwhelming physical comedy that he brings in. So, like I said, my first viewing, I think I saw bits and pieces of this film throughout the late 70s. It seemed to be on a lot on local TV here in Australia. And even back then, Peter Sellers, everyone knew him. I think my parents had a connection with him going back through the Goon Show, which is where they would have first encountered him, with Spike Milligan and Harry Seacombe. And I think everyone, just to a person, really appreciated what Peter Sellers' brand of comedy was, just the way he delivers it. And there was a lot of merchandise around back then too. I can remember Pink Panther comic books and other sorts of tie-ins, I suspect, for this film. And so the Pink Panther was everywhere. But it was interesting in the comics that I can remember. It was Inspector Clouseau trying to catch the Pink Panther, not the Diamond, an actual Pink Panther. And it's the Pink Panther that you see in the opening credits, which are really memorable. And it was a great marketing job, actually, and especially for someone, I would have been 7 or 8 then, and hugely partial to this kind of thing. And so seeing the film up close was really cool. But especially like the highlights of Sellers as Inspector Clouseau. Now when I watch it, it's a slightly different experience. I'm more, I think, appreciative just for the precision of what Sellers is doing, and thinking how hard it would be to do it, and also thinking about how many modern comedians who followed inadvertently or blatantly stole from him or borrowed from him, however you want to say that. And the film itself, I think, works less, definitely because of the plot, and just more because Sellers never stops inventing, never stops moving, speaking in that hybrid accent, that French accent that he just mangles his words so beautifully. I noticed a lot of things about this film, but it is worthwhile first to point out that it was directed by Blake Edwards. Blake Edwards, I feel, has been slightly lost in the movie culture of nowadays, but in the 60s and 70s in particular, he was massive, and for good reason, because he just epitomizes that era in movie making. When you look at, I've just written down here some titles that he directed. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger. Breakfast at Tiffany's. Ever heard of that little film? The Pink Panther series. There were lots of these movies made. The first ones came out in the early 60s. And then there were a couple more, or 3 more, I think, released in the mid to late 70s. And then a couple more without Peter Sellers, obviously, because he sadly passed away, I think, in 1980 or around there. And there was some sequels made with other people. Then it was rebooted with Steve Martin, quite successfully, actually. Mid 2000s, about 2006. But anyway, that was all started by Blake Edwards. Another collaboration with Peter Sellers called The Party was particularly successful as well. And I mean, he made lots of other films, including Victor Victoria. That was a Julie Andrews film, I think. And of course, the very famous film 10, which came out right at the end of the 70s with Bo Derek. That was a film with Bo Derek and Dudley Moore. It made Bo Derek an overnight sensation. So you can get the drift of what sort of films he was putting out humorous, a little bit saucy at times for those times. Entertaining films generally. So big shout out to Blake Edwards. Before I go any further, though, I've just got to mention this is such a film of its time, which is why I love it. Mid-70s, that's when I was just a real little kid, but I can kind of remember the time and I can remember the fashion. So whenever I see it on film, it just it's really nostalgic and humorous. Those huge shirt collars that Christopher Plummer is wearing, they are so wide. They look like wings. I thought he was going to take off there a couple of times. Seemed like everyone was drunk in the 70s. There's cognac and scotch everywhere. Definitely at lunchtime, people are just hoeing in. But in lots of the scenes in this, there's good hard liquor everywhere. I love seeing Christopher Plummer as a fashionable jewel thief, as a young hip dude. He obviously, or Blake Edwards or whoever was involved, had obviously not heard of, this predates the Slip Slop Slap campaign. There's some early scenes with Chris Plummer poolside trying to become beetroot color. He's sitting there loud and proud. He's got his chest hair there, 70s chest hair, and he is going a dark red, which is what we all did back in the day. So yeah, some early 70s brilliance there in the film, and it continues all through it. But look, let's get on to it. It's really a film to showcase Peter Sellers' just manic, one of a kind, or manic at times, when he gets going. He is just a one-man force in these Pink Panther films. I think I started thinking about it as I was watching. There's quite a few things that go into it. He's just got so much confidence as this character. I mean, this was his third or fourth time out. He's so across the accent and that mix of complete incompetence, and I mean complete. This guy, it starts from the get-go when he shows up at the museum after the Pink Panther diamond has been stolen. He gets there with his magnifying glass. The glass falls out of the magnifying glass, falls on the ground. He puts some fingerprint powder on, way too much. He's stumbling around. The guys there are just looking at him and rolling their eyes like, why did we get this boob? But it's mixed with absolute seriousness. His character never breaks character, if you know what I mean. It's not a meta performance. It's not a winking to the audience kind of stupidity. He thinks he is a world-class inspector. And he's the only one that thinks that. Even the bad guys in this know who he is the whole time. It's so funny. But there were some great scenes. The ones that stood out for me were right at the start when he's talking to the organ grinder, the blind organ grinder on the street, about some obscure ordinance where he can't be busking. There's a robbery happening right through the window, and I mean right next to him. He not only doesn't see it, then when the thieves come out with stockings over their heads, get into the car, it's obviously a robbery. They drop a bag on the ground. What does Clouseau do? He stops them and picks up the bag and hands it to them and salutes them and helps them on their way. I really love the cigarette lighter / gun mix-up with Inspector Clouseau's boss, the long-suffering Inspector Dreyfus, played superbly by Herbert Lom. He has a cigarette lighter that looks just like a pistol, and of course they get mixed up, and he ends up shooting someone. He ends up nearly blowing himself up trying to light a cigarette. In his haste to get rid of the annoying Inspector Clouseau, he can't pick up the right one at the right time, and so the whole thing falls apart. He's a big part of this film too, I should add. The art gallery. No one destroys a scene better than Peter Sellers, whether it's the art gallery, whether it's the hotel room of Catherine Schell's character in this. He just stumbles around and makes sure he completely destroys everything. I really enjoyed the coat check gag in the hotel in Switzerland, where Clouseau comes in through the revolving door. That's a big deal for him. He can't. His bag gets in a separate compartment of the door, the revolving door. He can't work out how to get it and get through the door. Hijinks ensue. He gets to the other side. A guy comes from inside the hotel and says, can I take your coat? Yep. Can I take your hat? Yep. Can I take your gloves? Yep. And off he goes with them. He goes outside and puts them in the car with a collection of other coats, hats, and gloves, and drives off. Clouseau realizes what's happened. He's a bit dumbfounded, and then he waves goodbye to the guy. The swimming pool sequences. Throughout the film, Clouseau adopts various, in inverted commas, disguises, because it's so obviously him. He starts out as a pool cleaner with a cool little pool cleaner van. Of course, it ends up in a swimming pool, the wrong swimming pool of the neighbours. By the time that we see that van being winched out of the pool, guess what? He's back in there in a different van this time. Just great timing on a lot of these gags. One more that stood out, when he's rummaging through Catherine Schell's room, after he's made a mess of everything. Well, there's two things, sorry, about this scene. One is he's using a vacuum cleaner in his cover as a German cleaner. It's got such great suction that it's just hoovering up everything around him, including the portrait on the wall from within its frame. In it goes. Then he puts it away in the drawer. It's too pesky. What does he do to replace the portrait that's no longer there? Grabs some flowers out of a vase and arranges them in the frame to make it look like a still life. Great stuff. He goes into the bedroom. He sees an object that he takes to be a safe. He tries to work out what the combination could be. Realizes it's a radio. Then he's turned the radio up, can't turn it off. The knob comes off. Just throughout the film, another great one in a bathtub where he's got one of those handheld attachments on it with the water coming out. He can't turn it off. The phone's ringing. Just great stuff. And throughout, Peter Sellers keeps this deadpan look on his face. At times he's confused, but it's always someone else's fault. He hasn't done anything wrong. He's the famous Clouseau. He never thinks he's funny. He genuinely thinks he's the smartest person in every room. That's why this comedy just lands so well. All right, the supporting cast. I mentioned Herbert Lom before as Dreyfus. I mean, this guy, whatever patience he had when he started out working with Clouseau, managing Clouseau, has long gone, and you can see why. He's driven him insane, literally insane. Herbert Lom throws in some great little bits, including a bit of an eye tick, bit of a nervous tick there. He starts to have a nervous little laugh at times. He ends up insane in this film. He is one of the film's secret weapons. I mentioned Christopher Plummer. God, it was weird seeing him so young, so hip, energetic, agile, playboyish, as the world famous jewel thief. I'm mainly used to seeing Christopher Plummer later in his career, and he had a long career, which is great because he's a fantastic actor. But I remember him in more stately, sort of distinguished roles, particularly films like The Insider, Michael Mann's film with Russell Crowe about whistleblowers in the tobacco industry. Films like that, and there were plenty more in the next 10 or 15 years. And that's how I kind of remember him. So yeah, it was a bit strange seeing him in this. Charming and charismatic. He does bring a genuine movie star presence. So a man of many facets. And of course, I have seen a lot of these films before, but I just forgot. I forgot that he was in them. He's such a professional. He's not showy or eccentric. He's just really good at what he does, and really does well in this. Catherine Schell plays his partner, and I couldn't work out whether her character was laughing at Clouseau's amateurish attempts to surveil them and put disguises on and act like a competent inspector. I couldn't work out if it was the character that was laughing or it was just her reacting to Peter Sellers and his gags, and who knows how many were just ad-libbed. I mean, I don't know how anyone keeps a straight face acting opposite Peter Sellers, honestly. So she brings a lot of warmth and energy, and it was kind of fun watching her outright laughing at Inspector Clouseau's attempts to come in and tap the phones, for example, in the mansion. So some other great things that worked. I love that Henry Mancini score that's so famous with that sax. What a sassy, low-down sound that is, known the world over. It's just synonymous with the Pink Panther, and it's so good. The physical comedy, I talked about Peter Sellers earlier, but it's not just the stupidity of Clouseau, it's the binds that he finds himself in. An example, when he's in the mansion of Christopher Plummer, trying to tap the phones while everyone knows what he's doing, and they even take advantage of the situation to stage a fake phone call that he can listen into. He gets himself wedged underneath one of those really a wooden desk with quite a narrow leg space. Of course, he gets stuck in there. He flips everything off the top of the desk, and when he tries to get up, the desk is stuck to him. So he's getting around on all fours with his desk stuck to him, while the butler or the help is trying to knock on the door, and eventually he's got to flip over on his back. I doubt that was Peter Sellers in there, but anyway, he had to do a lot of physical comedy in that part. In Catherine Schell's hotel room in Switzerland, when he gets stuck in the sauna and he comes out, the floor's all slippery, his pants keep falling down. It's just great slapstick stuff. It's just this is the kind of comedy that we always used to get back in those days. You know, Steve Martin ran with it later on, and plenty of others. But this was probably, and I mean, I'm not going to suggest that that sort of comedy hadn't been done before, because obviously it had. But in that modern age, I just don't know that it had ever been done better, and I'm not sure it's been done better following him. Although people like Jim Carrey have given it a good shake. Disguises and playing multiple characters. Sellers, of course, did this previously in Doctor Strangelove and some other films. But the funny thing is, they're multiple disguises, but they're not great. You can always see it's Clouseau. Yeah, it's a fake nose, it's a fake moustache. In one scene, it's half a fake moustache, just hanging there when he's playing the French sex god in the nightclub. Oh my God! You've got to see it to believe it. The relaxed pace, things just you're never in any doubt that this is nothing. It's never a serious movie. By the way, this is rated G. This will likely be the only G-rated film I'll be reviewing on this podcast. What a strange occurrence that is. The feel-good energy is fantastic. You're laughing along with with Peter Sellers and at him at the same time, really. And the great supporting performances. Everyone's in on the joke. Everyone's in the right frame of mind for this film. If you wanna find things that don't work, yes, look, it is the same variation on the same joke. Clouseau's hopeless, but I think there is enough variation in most of the gags. A couple of them get a bit stale, but generally it's still really successful. It's a really slight plot, of course. Some of the jokes are a little bit dated, but you soon get past that. There is a touch of casual racism, which sadly was reflective of the era, with Kato, Clouseau's offsider. There's one or two references to his yellow skin. Again, it's not a hanging offense, but it's not great, especially looking at it through this lens. But back in the day, there were far worse examples, and they played out all the time. They played out everywhere, sadly. Benny Hill show, probably. I can remember it explicitly in the goodies. All sorts of color references there. Yeah, we weren't as educated and or as vigilant as we should have been back in the day. But this film isn't nowhere near as bad as many others of its era. So I feel that's a minor issue in this example. I did want to touch though on the legacy and the influence, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier. I tend to forget how influential Peter Sellers was. And yes, I know he's borrowing from other places, but this character, this bumbling Inspector Clouseau, I mean, some obvious near rip-offs. The Inspector Gadget character, the later on, which was also based on Get Smart. It was like a merging of Get Smart, the TV show in the late 60s, with that bumbling character. And other ones, of course, Austin Powers, a reboot in the 90s, really, of this franchise, just in a different guise. The Naked Gun does it as well. The Naked Gun does it in a different way, though, in that everyone's dumb, not just Frank Drebin, the Leslie Nielsen character. In this one, everyone knows how dumb Clouseau is, and they poke fun at him, and they use him for their own purposes and to their own advantage. Some other ones I thought of was Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase has got that real physical comedy, and can play someone who's not too bright. I think of his Griswold character in the Vacation films, and even in the first one where when he crashes the car out in the desert and his glasses are broken, he puts them on, they're hanging off his face. That just screams Peter Sellers. And in other ways, Chevy Chase would keep that deadpan look and do, walking into walls, and direct influence from Peter Sellers. Jim Carrey, of course, first came to our attention doing stand-up that was very physical, and owes some debt, I think, to Peter Sellers. Rowan Atkinson, another one, but he has a slightly different energy, but still, it's that nincompoop who thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. Combination of confidence and incompetence, physical comedy with complete seriousness, a blueprint. Final reflections then, definitely not a great mystery. Not a very deep film, but a very funny film. 2 or 3 scenes I was actually laughing out loud, but for the most part I just had a smile on my face, just remembering times gone by when things were a lot simpler and this film was on a lot. And just that it's a reminder of how gifted Peter Sellers was. So it's really a source code for decades of comedy that followed. So perfect. I say it a few times, but I think it's a good Sunday afternoon movie. If you're a bit tired from the night before, just put this on and chill out and relax. You won't regret it. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Dave's Movie Diary, and catch you next time.